Welcome to Build Out with Jim Kunkel, your go-to broadcast for learning more about business in the real world. Your host, Jim Kunkel, who is an accomplished professional in business development, sales, and marketing, and is a technical content creator along with being a rising influencer on LinkedIn. On Build Out, you'll get the latest information and knowledge from subject matter experts from across the globe. Okay, let's get this Build Out broadcast started. And here's your host, Jim Kunkel.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Build Out. I'm Jim Kunkel. Today I've got a very special guest, Brent Kremer. Brent, welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having me. This will be fun.
Excellent. Before we get into the topic of digital marketing and how it can transform your business, Brent, could you provide the viewers your professional background, and also if you could talk about your firm, Schools In?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Jim, as you had said, my name is Brent Kremer. I am a partner at a B2B e-commerce company called Schools In. So we are an online-only dealer of about 120 different brands of school and office furniture, school and office, I guess, furniture, equipment, and supplies, technically. But yeah, so I guess we as we are only online, I mean, I guess in today's conversation where that's going to fit in is all of our marketing actually is digital. We actually don't do any traditional marketing, whether that's good or bad. But yeah, it's all digital. And at the end of the day, our main, go-to-market strategy is through the SEM world, through, pay-per-click within the, search engines, Google, Bing, a little bit with Amazon and YouTube and things like that. But yeah, so main background, been in the paid advertising industry for about 10 years now. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
And you and we became, I think it was probably when I was first introduced to you back in 2021 through a common friend, Tats, who does Roofer Reflections and Tats Talks. He's a content creator here on LinkedIn, also YouTube. Please, everyone watching the replay, follow Tats here on LinkedIn. But we were part of a masterminds group and through Clubhouse, and you had done several conversations and related to the topic of digital marketing. And that's where, I really was impressed with what you had covered during those Clubhouse sessions, topic-wise. And then also at the time, we were coming, well, I guess I would say we're out of the pandemic, let's say. But during the 2020 and 2021, a big, strong emphasis on digital transformation started to happen in multiple industries, and digital marketing really rose or it grew to more prominence as we see it is today, where, a lot of marketing budgets for, let's say, legacy companies are really focused strongly on digital marketing. But the opportunity there exists now that it doesn't matter the size of your company. You could be a legacy company, you could be a startup. You can actually have a level playing field out there when it comes to being able to sell your products, your services, or whatever you're looking to do through the use of digital marketing. Last week, I had done a episode on meme marketing, and just to see the impact that through meme marketing that companies can have. Again, doesn't matter the size of the company or not. And what I was amazed with to see how impactful when you look at the research, where nearly half of consumers and also buyers are utilizing Google and other search engines, but also too they respond to a lot of the digital marketing. Now there are those watching right now who might say, "What really is digital marketing?" So Brent, what is your definition of digital marketing?
And I think that's where some of these, people watching are going to, see that marketing isn't always that creative. Digital marketing is, everything done well digitally. So anything online, when you're looking at, Facebook posts, LinkedIn posts, advertising through the search engines, everyone knows, Google and Bing. But then, of course, everything that, when we were talking off air, you were talking about tagging, some of your podcasts and how you're getting some traffic there. And so again, anything online, anything that is not the traditional, billboards, newspapers, magazines, is ultimately digital marketing. some of these, smaller companies and some people that are, especially service based, they think that it is for the larger companies that, have a massive web presence, or, like Schools In, we're e-commerce only. But at the end of the day, everybody's, in digital marketing at this point, whether they know it or not. Maybe they're not doing it well, but, and maybe they should be doing more. But, at the end of the day, we are seeing it, everywhere. Just walk yourself just through a typical day. And Jim, I'm not saying that you do this by any stretch, but as soon as we wake up, we start scrolling Instagram. We see digital marketing, we see ads. We finally get to our cup of coffee and we're checking our email, and, we have one of these pesky spam, we see it as spam emails of, a company that we just bought shoes from. Well, that's a promotional email. That's, they want us to know about their next, advertising, or their next promo and things like that. Come lunchtime, you grab your iPhone and you're searching for the nearest pizza shop. I mean, that's everything from local SEO to SEM, depending if they are, paying for those leads. And we'll get into some of the SEO, SEM stuff and all these crazy acronyms later. But again, it just, as we talk about this, it is just, it's all day long.
So I appreciate you going through your definition of what digital marketing. So if I'm a purist when it comes to digital marketing, email marketing, is that considered digital marketing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
I would just, my assumption would be that if I'm a digital marketer, I'm like, ooh, email. But it sounds like it is very much, I would say probably was what the precursor to digital marketing was email marketing. Is email marketing still effective today?
100%. So when you're kind of looking back and, when we want to talk about the old email marketing, I mean, people used to do, broadcast faxes, right? Mm-hmm. And so now, kind of, the new way into doing those things and getting into people's inboxes is email marketing. A lot of people are saying, those things are, kind of a dying thing. I mean, I will tell you, in our business, we send two emails every week. I mean, it's on cadence Tuesdays and Thursdays. I mean, whether it's promos, whether it's news within the industry, whether it's just, helpful tips on certain, products that we have. Email is a huge part of our business strategy from the digital end.
So it's important for business, anyone watching it, it's running a business either online or, a physical business, that if you have a mail list, promote people to subscribe to the mail list. Very important to be able to market to them as well. I appreciate you covering about email, because I was always wondering, viewing me personally, I always seem to view email more analog versus digital. And again, that was a precursor in my mind related to it. And I tend to your point, gravitate, I'm looking at ads that might be on Instagram. There's some Facebook. And then there's also some things that you'll get on YouTube, for example, if you are a user of YouTube. And then a lot of the digital ads that are done if you're doing search engines like Google, Bing, or some of the other providers out there. So let's go ahead and segue into the different types of digital marketing. And I think the first one that can be very overwhelming for people to understand, but also to really try to either, if they try it themselves, I think it can be difficult. So this is where I think a third party can help out, is with SEO, search engine optimization. Could you go through a little bit about what SEO is, and then what would be your recommendation for someone who's watching right now, who's thinking of, maybe they're starting something up, and how do they get into SEO?
Yeah. Yep. So I will kind of take a step back here, and
Sure.
I will say a lot of times when somebody, does think about digital marketing and things like that, they hear the acronym SEO and they kind of assume that SEO means all of it. Not necessarily. There's two main buckets, and, doesn't have to be overly complicated, but there's two main buckets, SEO and SEM. And so we'll start with the SEO side. So SEO is search engine optimization. Kind of the best way to kind of think about this is anything that you're able to, from a traffic perspective, anything that you're able to promote, and then you're able to bring free traffic back to your website, whether, to convert online, or whether or not, Maybe you're a service-based business that runs an HVAC company, and phone calls are a big lead. Any lead or any traffic that you're getting for free, that's considered SEO. Another word or another buzzword you'll hear in that side of things is organic. So again, organic, free. When you're searching Google, and where the organic word will come in is the organic listing. So anything that's under anything with an ad on the side of it. So that's all SEO related. So, and how do your follow-up question was kind of, how do you get into that? Again, it's part of the side where a lot of people, even though they don't think they're doing it, they might actually be doing it. These are things like, your typical everyday, tweets or Facebook post or LinkedIn posts. I'm trying to promote, your product. If it's an e-commerce company, I mean, you're talking about product titles, product descriptions, some things that the search engines are ultimately crawling your website, and making sure people that are searching within their search engine, at the end of the day, they want everything to, it's all about user experience. They want things to be relevant. So they want to make sure that they're bringing people that are relevant within their searches. I mean, some tips and tricks of getting started in SEO. I mean, the very first thing is, this isn't 99 or 01 where there's, some tricks where you can keyword stuff and, put on backgrounds and, kind of cheat your way up per se.
I remember those days.
Yeah. The Wild West. But no, I mean, the biggest things at this point, site speed, really, when you're really thinking about it, I mean, just think user experience, and they'll kind of, take care of itself. And a customer doesn't want to come to a site that's, slow or has ads all over it, or, keyword stuffed or anything like that. So just kind of get yourself in the right frame of mind of customer experience. And then at the end of the day, like I said, biggest things at this point, time online, as far as founded and how long your website's been online, site speed. And then I'll say the other thing, just another like tip and trick when you're looking at site speed. Google and the search engines now they're crawling mobile sites first and foremost, and way more often throughout the month and year. And even if you Schools In as an example, I mean, our 75% of our traffic is still, believe it or not, desktop. Everybody's always saying mobile, but we are desktop, but we still very much concentrate on mobile speed, just in the fact that you want to be good in the eyes of Google.
Oh, I appreciate you covering SEO. So the next option, and this is I like to start it off this way. So there's the free way to do it, and then there's the right way to do it. And the right way is always going to involve an investment of time, money, and effort. And so when we look at the either pay for placement or pay per clicks, that is a great option for a startup, a newer company, or a company that's emerging and looking to really kind of capture some hot markets maybe that they're operating in, or they're going up against some of the legacy. Because, the other thing too we'll be talking about, I think, a little bit is the brand awareness. Certain brands, people, when they think of a product or service, they automatically think of that, and then they go looking for that particular website. So pay per clicks are also a very good option for companies to look at.
Yes, absolutely. And I even say, even people that, have a very good SEO strategy, or, they've been around a long time, and they don't necessarily think that they will benefit right away, they still should be doing both. And you've kind of alluded to, take a step back here, you kind of alluded to anybody getting started. Yeah, I mean, it's a way to get to the top of the, search results overnight, as soon as possible. But again, going back to the fact of, even if you are somebody that's good with SEO, the biggest thing, and what I tell people too, it's like, have both. Take as much real estate on the page as possible. If you've got, in our instance, we sell physical products. I mean, we run everything from, of course, we're doing the SEO, but from an SEM side, we are running both text ads and product ads. So when you're looking at a product page or, a search engine results page, a SERP is what it's called in the industry, you can find everything from, a school desk to a text ad to an organic listing all there on the same page. And ultimately, you're three options to a customer. And that's fantastic. And again, it's all about relevancy. It's all about, showing what, the end user wants. But I guess the other thing that I will say on this topic is a lot of people think, complicated and expensive are kind of like two words that people always kind of think. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be. As you get into it, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that you get instant results, but you do get instant feedback, right? So then you start testing things. And as you start testing different things, you'll understand what's best for your business. Ultimately, it's all down to, what's best for yours. Our typical, quote to invoice stage from an order perspective is, between 30 and 60 days. So when I've got marketing people and we're running tests and we're doing A/B tests on, paid ads, we're not going to run something for 2 days and think, oh, it's not working. Let's pull back here. So again, it's really the biggest caveat in the entire digital marketing space is that there's so much of it that depends, whether you're service-based, product-based. But then at the end of the day, you're going to know best as the business owner, as the head of marketing, as, knowing best what's for your company. Is ultimately where we're kind of in that.
And over the last few years, a trend that I've been really noticing, and it can be super positive, super viral, but also can go the opposite way where it could actually do some harm depending on how you put your strategy together related to social media marketing. And we've seen things that have been released on social media that have gone viral, and it's just amazing to see the cascading event that happens for a company, for their product or services. And then also too, over the last number of years, we've seen some campaigns that have been done that just didn't hit the mark and actually worked against the company, either their product or service or their brand. When it comes to social media marketing, what recommendations do you have for anyone who's thinking about getting into that form of marketing for their company or their brand?
Yeah. So if you're just starting out, I would say, first and foremost, where's your demographic?
Okay.
Well, who is your demographic? And then where do they necessarily, where do they play? For us, a lot of our demographic right now is Facebook and LinkedIn. So that's where we're most active. But if you're selling the latest, tchotchke fidget spinner to, and it's your D2C or your B2C, it might be TikTok these days. But the biggest thing is step back, ask yourself, where are your customers? Where are people engaging? And then go from there. Social media is one of those that, it's the hybrid. It lives in both buckets. You can have the SEO side and you can have the SEM side. So everybody knows about, the typical, like I said, Facebook posts and LinkedIn posts and tweets and stuff, but they also all have their own, paid platforms as well. It's been argued that, they can, Facebook is the best at, breaking down audiences and targeting people in the fact that, a lot of people give a lot of info to, Facebook and who ultimately owns Instagram. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of things going on in the industry right now where, you're going to start hearing about, third-party cookies and, this cookieless world and stuff like that. So tracking, it's getting harder. But again, at the end of the day, you just have to understand, who you're trying to market and where they live, where they spend a lot of their time.
Know your demographic. You'll live or die by that knowledge, and then also too, how do you communicate to them? The messaging is going to be really critical and very important too. So,
yes, exactly.
When we look at something I'm very passionate about is the content marketing, and for me, my definition of content marketing, kind of what we're doing here on the platforms right now. We're streaming across multiple platforms. We're creating content, but it could be either audio content, it could be video content, it could be a live stream type of content. It could be articles, it could be blogs. There's so many things when it comes to content. And I think depending on the type of, again, to your point, demographic that you're looking to target. And then the second thing is what type of product or service are you promoting? That can determine what your content strategy is. For Schools In, do you have a kind of a content strategy that you employ?
Yes. Yep. So, as far as, pure content, it is, say blog. Maybe that's an old fashioned term now,
but they're still relevant.
Yep,
they're not dead yet. Yeah.
100%. So, and we get people who order via fax machines. So I'm not afraid to, I'm not afraid to use the old words. But no, so you say blog, but at the same time, I mean, ultimately articles. And so we kind of have two different cadences. Some that, we're talking about product features and, helping people on product and how to search, or, how to ultimately find the right product for them. But at the same time, we also have, kind of in another bucket of, news as far as, industry news and things like that. And then we ultimately use those, we use like a LinkedIn for more of the news and, things like that. It obviously all lives on our website. And then, through, I mentioned Facebook before, a lot of our demographic does live there. We also have, we've had a running weekly contest. And we also do some other, depending on, whether it's back to school season, whether it's, it is the holidays and things like that. So we do have things that we do annually as well. But the biggest thing that I will say from a content perspective, as we're talking about it, when you're going back and a lot of people try to get very gung ho and okay, I'm gonna do a podcast, I'm gonna do a blog, I'm gonna make sure I tweet once a day. Biggest tip and trick that I will say is just make sure it's sustainable. Make sure it's sustainable and make sure that, your frequency is good. Your frequency is consistent, I guess is a better word. If you're going to go out and start the blog, let's, and maybe it's not you particularly writing it. Maybe it is a copywriter. They can get ahead, but I would say, pick a frequency of which you're going to post. So start once a month. If you can start proving to yourself that that's sustainable and look, we've got enough content, start doing, twice a month, just make sure it's consistent. The biggest thing that I see, especially on the content side, is you've got people that come firing out of the gate and they're going to write, 10, 12 blogs straight. They post every single week. And then you go to their LinkedIn or you go to their blog and all of a sudden it's been crickets for, 18, 24 months. All I say is just make sure that you don't kind of fall into that trap. And then I would the other thing as we are, on the topic, frequency and consistency, I would just make sure it's evergreen. Make sure, there are certain, there's going to be a time and place for, relevant news and things like that. But the other thing, just make sure that the content is always relevant in some way.
Yeah, something that I do, and people who follow me on multiple platforms, I will do test content where I will put, like for example, right now I have an audio series out on strategic thinking, and it's 9 parts. I'm going to finish the series out and then look at the analytics. How well was it received? What was the interaction? What was the engagement? And to determine, does this make sense for me to go ahead and offer an audio product out there, audio content? Right. For me, build out, and then when I used to do the corrosion and coatings content, that was always a very strong following and also interaction, engagement, and people reaching back to me related to the importance of the content I was providing, even with build out here. So don't be afraid to test series when it comes to different types of content on multiple different platforms. And to your point earlier too, maybe you need to hire a professional. Again, professionals are going to be well experienced, and also too, they're going to have a better knowledge of how these things work. Where, someone like, for me, for example, I learned as I went along, and that's a great way to learn. But maybe your company or your service or whatever you have doesn't have time to really kind of do a trial and error to figure things out. You got to go to go to a third party help, and Heidi can attest to that. Yep, Heidi is I want to call her a guinea pig, but I bounce a lot off of her when it comes to content. She does sales and marketing for VCP Sales, and she's very amazing when it comes to content creator herself. So Heidi, thank you for being there for me and helping me supporting me and my content as well. We had already covered email marketing, so I don't think we're going to go through that. And I think really out of the topics I think we're going to cover is the one that can be very difficult for a lot of people, and even for me, is mobile marketing. I think, like you had mentioned earlier in a conversation that and we had here in the stream regarding desktops. More people tend to seem to be on desktops, laptops than they are consistently on a mobile device. But you have to really look at mobile marketing as an important element. What are some of the considerations that have to be taken into account when you're doing mobile marketing?
Yeah. So with mobile, I mean, you have to understand, again, I know a lot of, the audience here is very, B2B. But at the same time, you have to understand that we are literally on these things all day long. So first things first, and I would say that the biggest thing, with your website is making sure that it is responsive. Back in the day, it was two different websites, whether, on the desktop version and then the mobile version, it was, two kind of code sets. And now you can, have one code set, have everything that's, is a responsive design. And so I would think, I would say that's kind of like, first and foremost. And then after that, concentrating on, speed and things like that. And as we are sitting here on a live podcast, I mean, if you are, doing videos and you are, coming up with other content, make sure, we deal with this all the time, whether, like I said, most of our customers are on the desktop, but every time we run a test on a product page or I release a video on, an explainer and things like that, always watch it on mobile. And I'll take it a step further, watch it on a tablet as well. Every once in a while we forget about, the iPads and things like that, but a lot of people are on those. And, even if they're not actively buying from you and even if they're not actively looking at your things, ultimately at the end of the night, people are sitting on their couch watching TV and, they're also scrolling on the phone, and they might, come across it. And, you just want to make sure that the experience is, just as good on bigger screens.
Yeah. For buildoutproductions.com, I'm always looking at it, laptop, iPhone, iPad. So I do look at it that way just to see, how does it look on the mobile? How does it look on a tablet? How does it look on a desktop or a notebook? That is important, because if it's not looking good, it's just no one's going to really want to use it. They're going to skip by you. Let's go ahead and let's move into when we're talking about analytics and KPIs. What for you? Let's say, what are the top three? We'll narrow it down because there's so many. What are the top three KPIs that you recommend or you look at when it comes to effective digital marketing?
Yeah. So top three, and I'm gonna. So I guess for me with e-commerce is a little different. I will say our big three right now are conversion rate, cost per acquisition, and then ultimately products added. So products added isn't going to necessarily, it falls into the SEO side of things for us, but not necessarily going to be as relevant. So I will kind of, try to keep it, kind of more broad and top level. But sure. I would say, your CAC or your customer acquisition cost is always going to be up there for sure. And then conversion rate, and then customer lifetime value. When you're looking at, the cost to acquire a customer, it goes back to, what is your definition of a conversion? Are you a service-based business where it's a phone call, or if it's somebody, ultimately submitting a contact form, or in our case, is it, an order? So you ultimately need to know, and then if you're on the paid side, you need to ultimately know how much, you paid for each conversion. So, again, just understanding where you're at. And then after you know your CAC, I mean, the biggest thing, and which can be a little overwhelming for some people, is customer lifetime value. Ultimately, of course, you want customers, you want new customers. We're always excited about, new, but at the same time, and it's just the classic marketing funnel, right, of awareness, interest, conversions, and then ultimately retention. So when you're looking at customer lifetime value, you ultimately have to look at, order frequency, and then average order value, ultimately. I'll give you a quick story on, as it relates to Schools In, of customer lifetime value has been kind of a little bit of a thorn in our side, pre-COVID. And it was one of those things where it's like, we've always wanted to get better at it. We always joked in-house of, as somebody that's selling, big furniture, large ticket items, we would always joke, look, somebody comes and they order 30 cafeteria tables from us, but then we don't see them for another 30 years. Those things are built like tanks. They don't need more cafeteria tables. They're great. They love them, but they ultimately don't come back. So how do we get into those things? And actually, if there was any positive within our business that came out of COVID, was it kind of forced us into selling stuff like that. And so we were able to, ultimately get better customer lifetime value in the fact of start selling things from a consumable perspective. It started with the hand sanitizers, and it started with very COVID related stuff, but it ultimately opened our eyes to, this is it, that we need more of the consumable type stuff. So, my recommendation out there to anybody, if they don't have, people coming back weekly, monthly, even, semi-annually, start thinking of things that they ultimately need to, come back and order. And it's, again, the sanitizers and the wipes and stuff were kind of the easy gateway. And that's how schools had to reopen, things like that. But now it's like, it's gotten us in the door of things of supplies, paper, printer, ink, things like that. So, again, that's just kind of, that was kind of, if that little story sparks anything from a customer lifetime value of ways for people to think about that.
Yeah, I think it would. It really helps enhance revenue stream. The other thing too is, with the consumables, and in most of the case, the consumables, you're going to have a higher margin opportunity. So it's great to be able to add on to it. Maybe if you're cutting a deal on, say you're an equipment supplier and you have the consumables that go with the equipment, maybe you're squeezing the margin on the main capital equipment, but really where you can kind of make an inroad is, maybe you're able to negotiate an agreement when it comes to monthly consumables or weekly consumables and do a contract that way and really help enhance the profitability on the larger sale of that capital equipment or replacement equipment. So to your point, yeah, I think that resonates very well, and we see that as an effective business model out there for a lot of companies. Even too with service providers, if you're going to do routine maintenance agreements, so maybe you're monitoring websites or you're doing other things like that. Brent, what a great conversation we have been having. Is there anything that we didn't talk about related to digital marketing that you would want to leave with the viewers?
I think one of the things, you had kind of hit on it before of, if you aren't, a quote unquote expert, the stuff's always changing. So I don't know anybody that's is truly an expert. But you talk about hiring it out. One of the things that I will say, even if you're, going with a third party agency or you're trying to, hire somebody else in the back end, I would make sure that you at least understand it, a little bit. And at the end of the day, do eventually make a hire of somebody in-house that's ultimately owning it. They can ultimately be the liaison between the agency and your company, but I think it's very, very imperative and very important to have somebody in-house that truly knows what's going on day to day in the business. There's too many times that I think people try to, go out and hire a third party agency, and they just think, okay, I did it. It's off my books. It's all good. And then they wonder why it doesn't work. They wonder why they don't get the results that they necessarily, wanted or were promised. So I do think it's very, very important, as painful as it may be sometimes. I mean, it's just one of those things that I think you need to at least have a little bit of understanding on.
Perfect. And Brent, how can people check out Schools In? Also, do you have any social media for people to connect with you?
Yeah, I would say, from a Schools In perspective, definitely check us out online, schoolsin.com. That is ultimately our, catalog and storefront, if you will. But again, we are very active on Facebook and LinkedIn. So if you just, search Schools In. And me personally, I would say, the most active is, just LinkedIn. Just search me on LinkedIn, Brent Kremer, Kre. And, need any help or any questions, more than happy to help out. So you can just reach out.
Everyone, make sure you check out Schools In. Also, follow Brent and, make sure, ask him questions after this episode. Again, Brent, it's been an awesome opportunity to reconnect with you again, and this learning opportunity for me. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, everybody. We'll catch you next Wednesday.
I hope you found value with today's Build Out broadcast. Make sure you connect with Jim on LinkedIn and subscribe to his YouTube channel. This way you'll be notified on new live streams and when new content is released. Please give today's broadcast a like and share with your connections and colleagues. Thanks for watching, and please visit buildoutproductions.com for additional content and to join the mailing list so you can keep updated on other streams and quality content from the creators on the Build Out Productions team.